And if you can hear a little burbling in the background, it's the burbling of a little baby, currently suckling on its mother's breast. And its mother is Ruth Colizar Green, who is one of the spokespeople for, one of the cleverest and most eloquent spokespeople for the Mohawk people and other indigenous people of Canada. Call themselves the First Nation. They were the nation that was here first in this beautiful and very prosperous land before the settlers came. Settlers like wee Tommy Robinson and others who came here and, of course, disinherited to a very considerable extent the people that Ruth represents. Now, this is the very first radio interview I have ever carried out with a Mohawk woman with a baby suckling on her breast. Let's hope it all goes well. Ruth, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'll go.
Now, tell me first of all, who are you? What is a Mohawk? Where were the Mohawks? And how does one describe now the situation of your people?
Okay, Skeno. Means great peace. How's a great peace with you? Skeno. Okay. My name is Ruth Colizar Green. I'm from the Turtle Clan, meaning that my responsibilities fall in line with a whole history that goes way back to time immemorial. I'm from the Mohawk Nation of the Turtle Clan. The Mohawk Nation is one of the 6 nations known as the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. Originally, there was 5 in this area, but due to colonization, 1 came up and joined us later. In your history textbooks, our confederacy is known by a racist term, and it's in Canada, in Britain, I'm assuming. We're called the Iroquois, which more people seem to know.
I've heard of the Iroquois, but that's not a term you like.
No, it's a racist term meaning dirty blood eaters.
Goodness.
It's a term that is Algonquin, which is another nation here in Turtle Island. Turtle Island is where we are. We're actually in the territory of Mississauga New Credit First Nations, the First Nation who actually was the guardian of this land that we're standing on right now is Mississauga. There's another nation, the Algonquins, who we warred with. They didn't like us, and so they called us the Iroquois, meaning dirty blood eaters. But when the British and the French came, the Algonquins allied with the French, where you're standing here because the Mohawks allied with the Brits. And
should I thank you for that or not? I mean, is it
I'm not sure if I'm thanking you or not.
Is that a good thing that you did or not?
Well,
why were any of us here? We were here to conquer it and exploit it.
Exactly,
yeah?
But that's why we, as on Turtle Island, speak predominantly English.
Mm. And how many of you were there, and how many of you are there?
That's a very contentious question of how many there were. I've heard up to about 200 million of us.
200 million?
I know. And then you've heard, smaller, more estimated numbers that make more sense. Like, 30 million Aboriginal people.
In Canada?
Turtle Island.
In this part?
Okay, in this part, we're not sure. Let's be honest.
Mm. Okay, I wanted some idea of the global. So you've given me somewhere between 30 million.
30 and 200 million
and 200
are usually the...
million.
Yes,
these are vast numbers.
Vast differences. Yeah. I'm not an anthropologist.
No, I don't mean vast differences. They're vast numbers, whichever way you look at it. What happened to those people, and how many are there now?
Right now, it's hard to decide how many Aboriginal people there are, because there's pieces of legislation that deem who we are and who gets to call ourselves Aboriginal or Indian or Métis, First Nations, Inuit. I am deemed a status Indian under the Indian Act, and in my nation of the Seneca, Kanadahaga Senecas, there's 484 of us.
There's 484.
Yeah, I think that's the
That's in your subset.
Yeah.
Okay. How did the numbers decline from whatever they were originally
to now?
To this?
How long's your history lesson?
Well, tell me as briefly as you can. I mean, were they killed? Did they die from disease that were brought here?
Exactly. Smallpox wiped us out a lot. There's historical accounts of people being given blankets with smallpox to
deliberately infect them. Mm-hmm.
Deliberately infect. colonization has occurred where, we had residential schools where over half the children never came home. We have people who don't know who they are because they were apprehended at his age, away from their mothers by Children's Aid, and adopted to other places across the globe.
And what's your situation now? Do you have land? What are your demands now of the Canadian government?
The conversation of self-determination is a call for nation-to-nation consultation. We have these treaties that are signed between either the Canadian government or the British government at that point. And to make a treaty, politically, if you're making a treaty as Canada, who are you making it with? Another nation, the Mohawk Nation. So we're asking for conversations and consultation and about nation to nation. So the Canadian nation has to acknowledge the Mohawk Nation. We are nations within this nation. We've never been defeated. How can we have been defeated when we're the reason the British won against the French Indian Wars? You know what I mean?
Are you saying that the treaties were not honoured?
The treaties have never been honoured.
In what important respects?
Everything. Everything from land to the idea that we would govern together. In my teachings, in my community, we follow wampums, which are conversations, documents made out of beads. And the one that comes to mind for self-determination is called Gaswenta. I should have brought my Gaswenta to show you. Gaswenta is called the two-row wampum. It is a beaded belt, that has 3 lines of white beads separated by 2 lines of purple. The purple represent the First Nations people and the non-First Nations people. And they travel down the river together in 2 vessels, one a steamship, one a canoe, not interfering with each other, but always parallel. And they're separated by peace, friendship, and mutual respect. And that is our treaty.
And that's been singularly lacking.
Peace,
How are you
friendship,
treated
and
now?
mutual
We've only
respect.
got a minute left. How are you treated now by Canadian society? Things getting better or worse?
I think it's getting ignored. We have over 500 Aboriginal women who have been murdered or missing in the past 30 years, conservative number, who nobody's looking for them other than us. The Canadian government doesn't care. We're the expendables. We're not really even supposed to be here anymore. They were supposed to have annihilated us. So the fact that I'm sitting here holding my son, and he's going to know who he is. He's going to know that his name is Elijah, after a strong Aboriginal man, and his middle name is Anwara, meaning turtle in Mohawk, because that's who he is. That means that we've never been defeated.
Very, very moving and powerful words. Thank you very much indeed, Ruth Colizar Green, who speaks for a section of the Indigenous Aboriginal First Nation people here
and I am Aboriginal.
Yes. Thank you for that correction.